Hi, guys, and welcome to The Leap. We are so excited because this week we have another fabulous guest. His name is Dr. Herman Williams. He is the Senior Vice President and Chief Clinical Officer at RCCH Healthcare Partners in Nashville, Tennessee. And he's also a certified life coach. And if you guys can believe it, after doing all of that, he has the nerve to have enough time to be able to write a book. And he just finished his book called Clear: Living the Life That You Didn't Dream of. And so we're so excited to have you on today, Dr. Williams. Thank you so much for joining us today on The Leap.
Sure, it's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, thank you. So before we get started, I'm just so excited that you're here, you know? Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about your book?
Well, the book really focuses on the fact that we all have these wonderful dreams growing up as a child. Mine was first to help people, second to be a doctor, and then third to be a world-class orthopedic surgeon. So suddenly, due to a cardiac arrest that occurred in the tail end of my orthopedic training, all of those dreams went out the window. And so I found myself literally living the life I didn't dream of. And so the book talks about that transition. It starts with a dream, and then it continues on through being resuscitated on a basketball court floor, all the way through being a part of a clinical trial for a new defibrillator. And just it talks about all of those experiences all the way up to the present. And I think the beauty about the book, in my opinion, is it doesn't just tell the story at the end. It says, okay, so now that you've told us the story, what should we do with it?
Yeah.
And so the last chapter, which really I think stemmed from my life coach work, is really to tell people, how do you handle stress? How do you figure out what your true mission in life is? And this has been a 25-year journey for me and my wife, who was clearly my savior, all the way up to observing me go down and yelling for help, through just this incredible life journey that we've gone through, which has been, very difficult. But I think now we have found a peaceful place to be in. Mm-hmm. And I have found my true meaning in life.
Wow. That is powerful. That's powerful, Williams.
Thank you.
In the midst of that, what I noticed is that everything that you said, even if it was your initial dream of becoming a doctor, then orthopedic, everything was tied to helping people.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Even after experiencing the health challenge, you still came back around to helping people. So share with us how this plays a role, or how it led to you becoming a life coach.
I think I've always, excuse me, I've always helped people, and I've always felt as if I were a coach. When I started training as a coach, I realized what I was doing was mentoring and serving as a role model. So I then went into training on how to really not tell the answer, but how to pull the answer out of others by getting them to reflect on their situation. And so it, in a way, that's what I always wanted to do, but it sort of stemmed, from my very initial sense to want to go into a helping profession.
Right. I could definitely see that. I could definitely see that.
Wow, wow, wow. So, how would you say that your message in the book Clear can connect with the community of the Leap, which we're trying to get people to move from one place to another? Whatever dream that they have, or they've held onto for years and they just haven't been able to step forth and activate it. How would the message of Clear translate to that community?
Well, I think I've taken a personal leap myself, if you will, from that initial dream to my current reality today. The book introduces this concept of the ABCs of life. And so I hope that that's valuable to some people who haven't been able to live their dream or to get there. And I use ABCs, which is sort of a take on the ABCs of resuscitation, which is, airway, check for an airway, check to see if they're breathing, and then C, check for their circulation. But my A is acknowledge where you are, what your limitations are, to sort of right size that dream. So maybe it doesn't make sense, like it wouldn't make sense for me to have a dream to be a professional athlete when I have some cardiac limitations and I have a defibrillator. So really right size your dream by acknowledging what your condition is and being true to yourself in understanding what that is.
Right.
The B stands for breathing, and really breathing as an introduction to relaxation. And when you get tense, the first thing we do is, okay, let me take a deep breath, calm down, and then let me approach that calmly. But it also introduces meditation as a form, an extension of breathing, and as a way to calm yourself, again, to focus on that dream and to focus on approaching it with a relaxed style. The last letter is C, and that's for compassion. And that's simply living a life of compassion. And I talk about the difference between sympathy, empathy, and compassion. Where sympathy, you look at something, you go, wow, that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Empathy, like, wow, I wish I could do something about that. But compassion is like, oh my God, what can I do right now?
Yeah.
If I see someone, geez, can I open the door for them? Can I help them sit down? Can I tell them about, some cure for what they have? And I really emphasize that life of compassion. And those three things have really helped me get to this comfortable place where I'm at, today in my life.
Wow. Wow, that's incredible. I love those ABCs. I love them.
And it's different than than what I was thinking of ABCs. I was thinking of the alphabet, but even when you introduce ABCs in terms of the meanings regarding health, but you totally transform that to make it applicable to reaching and achieving your dreams and giving it, it's kind of like a guide. These are some steps that you can take. That's excellent.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible.
And it's basic because it's ABCs and we all know our alphabet. It also ties to understanding resuscitation, but then it introduces some new concepts that maybe people haven't thought about.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Now you mentioned, whereas you have to be realistic about your goals and what you're able to do, not just you specifically, but an individual is able to do. Did you experience any challenges as you begin to make that transition or pursue becoming a life coach? Were there any challenges that you experienced?
Well, there were challenges related to my recovery in general.
Okay.
The book talks a lot about them. Those were fearful, frightening. I couldn't leave the house. I didn't want to be in public. And so those were challenges I had to overcome. I think the challenge to being a life coach is really understanding that you don't have the answer, that everyone has the answer for them. And my role is to ask thought-provoking questions and to hold folk accountable, challenge them with those answers to try and find them what the true meaning for them. So really two different challenges, but one that I faced in both those areas.
I could totally understand that, because I know after experiencing the medical condition that you had to go through a period of bringing yourself back to a state where you're able to move forward. Like, your story resonates with me for for a couple of reasons. So I could totally understand that. I totally get that. Thanks for sharing that.
Sure, thank you.
So, Dr. Williams, with some of the people that you work with as a coach, I'm certain that they have certain stumbling blocks on the road to achieving whatever goal that they've set out before themselves. What are some of the pitfalls that people can encounter, and what can they do to overcome them on the journey toward getting and achieving their goals?
Some common goals are, we have all these ideas in our head, so I want to be whatever I want to be. And I've got the plan, but it's in my head. I've never written it down. It's kind of clear, but not really clear. So one of the things I try and get people to do is to write, what is your goal? It's almost like the Franklin Covey, what's the end in mind? And then let's walk back and outline the steps that it would take to get there. And so that's a common stumbling block. Accountability is a big one. And I'm no different than anyone else. I hold myself accountable for things, but sometimes I don't come through. And I reset a goal, write it down, hold myself accountable. So that's the other thing, is we make commitments, but we're not really accountable, and we don't carry those out. Whether, my biggest thing is exercising. I have a goal, I have it written down on paper, but when I hold myself accountable, there are a lot of things that get in the way. So people encounter those sorts of things. And when you have a coach, there's something about knowing I'm going to have to meet, with my coach next week, and I'm going to have to say one more time, "Oh, I didn't exercise." So the coach also holding you accountable, I think, helps you realize, your goal.
Yeah. That's really good. It's funny. We've spoken to a few people in doing this, in creating this community, and it's almost, isn't it accurate, Samantha, that just about everyone that we talk to say the first thing that you have to do is write your goals down?
Yeah.
Yep. Write your goals down, get it out of your head and onto paper. And you were so right, because so many people are walking around with dreams and visions in their head, and it never makes it from that thought process onto the paper, onto the plan, so they could even get with someone like a coach to help bring that to fruition.
Yeah. And that accountability piece is so wonderful too.
That's really the primary job of the coach. Is you come up with your strategy. I can help you, again, by asking good, inquisitive, and powerful questions. But when you come up with that answer, my job is to keep you accountable for that solution.
Yeah.
So if you were talking with an individual, Dr. Williams, and they were getting to the point where they had their plan on paper, and just like you said, people need to be held accountable. Have to understand that there may be some stumbling blocks. What would you say to a person who is experiencing pitfalls? Like, what type of words of encouragement, or what would you, I know as a coach, you don't tell them what to do. You're looking for it to come from within them, but just a general person in regards to pitfalls, what would you say to a person that's experiencing that?
the first thing to do is acknowledge the pitfalls.
Okay.
You know, so I want to go to graduate school, but I just can't get there. So what are the pitfalls? Well, money. I haven't been able to pass the GMAT. And there's just the time commitment. I'm working full time. So those are probably, let's just say those are my three most important pitfalls. Okay, we got that.
Okay.
Now tell me, what are the obstacles? Let's drill in on those and let's see if we can't come with potential solutions to each of those pitfalls. And I think, so sometimes we don't drill down, you know, if you don't have time, can we carve out a certain amount of time? What can you commit to, you know, each day? Can you carve out an hour? Can you carve out 2 hours? Can you carve out whatever that is? Are there ways, have you looked into financial aid? So you walk them through potential solutions to the obstacles, and sometimes that helps them get over the obstacle. But sometimes they say, you know, as I've thought about it, I really don't want to commit any more time. So now you're right sizing that goal.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So if
That's
you're
good.
not willing to do that, now we could just take the test and see how we did and see what happens. But you go through each of those obstacles, drill down, try and figure out solutions. And then, excuse me, each time you come back, you analyze the progress on those solutions to meeting those obstacles. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It absolutely does. It created a visual in my head. I was imagining like a jackhammer and like a rock or a piece of cement being a pitfall and drilling down and get into it.
Yeah.
Get to the bottom and a person says, I'm not ready to commit to that. That lets you know, whether this plan is really going to take effect or whether this person is not ready to move.
Yeah.
So either brings them back to that point where it's about what's inside of them.
Yeah. And it's so important when you have someone who's holding you accountable. The accountability piece is not just you're in trouble because you didn't do what you're supposed to do piece. You said something very powerful when you said right sizing that goal.
Absolutely.
It may have been a goal that you had 5 years ago that doesn't fit
Exactly.
your life cycle or maybe what you're envisioning for your life. And you have to readjust that to make that fit for your actual life. And I think that that's very powerful. It's not just you're in trouble, but it's also, let me help you tailor this for the life that you want. Yes.
Right. And then I ask you, okay, here's what you said you were going to do. Do you want to change that commitment? You know, you're allowed to change, but if you're going to stick to that, then I'm going to hold you accountable. You know, I've had many experiences, even before I had my health issues, committing to med school and committing to what it would take. And, you know, I had to, I basically played around in college and thought I was going to just sail into medical school, and that didn't happen. So I had to recommit to another dream. Am I willing to pay more money and go back to school? Yes. Okay. Are you willing to do this? Are you willing to work night and day and devote 12 months solid to relearning those courses, recommitting, taking the medical college admission test again? And I said, yes. I did all that stuff. And then my dream came true. And so, but there were a lot of little steps, little commitments I had to do to get there. And the same with my physical recovery is, I in the book, I talk about how there are more incentives for me to stay disabled than there were for me to reinvent myself, because it was harder and they were taking money away. They're like, oh, well, if you're going to go back to work, then you don't need this money. So, just recommitting and saying, I'm going to stick to this goal. I'm not going to let this situation keep me down. I'm going to have to re-educate myself. I had to go back to school, change professions, progress through that. And I try and share that in the book. And I hope I hope it appeals to other people's situations so that they can relate to it.
Yes, wow. That reinvention piece is incredible as well.
But it will be available on Amazon. It will be available on Barnes and Noble, on there'll be an ebook available on Kindle. So we're trying to make it as easy to get as possible.
I'm excited about it coming out. So don't forget about us. Don't forget about us, because I love
I'm excited too.
Yes.
to hear stories and read stories about real people who have experienced challenges and have made a decision to go through the hard stuff. And the fact that you made that decision, and even dealing with the fact of, people wanting to scale back on something that's going to be beneficial to you, like benefits or things like that for the health condition. But because you decided to do something bigger and move forward, bless other people, and you're able to impact other people's lives. So, I mean, all throughout your story, there was that piece of helping others. So, I mean, I thank you on behalf of all the people that you are going to reach and all of the people that you are going to touch. Like, thank you for sharing your story and allowing us to see how a person overcomes challenges.
Yeah. Yes. And has impartations for others.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. That's
And
incredible.
I'll tell you a funny story. As you probably both of you know, was a whole Franklin Covey movement back in the 80s or 90s, and I went to all their classes. I read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and I remember in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, they said you need to develop a mission statement for yourself. And I was like, that's a bunch of crap. Really? I mean, I'm not an organization. I don't really. But it's funny, after I've gone through this journey and after I realized what I think my mission in life, my mission statement is to make everybody better off in some small way after they leave me than before they met me. Just a very simple thing. And that I'm committed to that every day. And the book talks about just our interactions in elevators and in areas where you have 2 human beings that are like 5 feet from each other and they don't communicate and they don't acknowledge, and so it talks about that. Every time I'm with someone, I try and have a positive interaction.
Yeah.
And I would say 9 times out of 10, occasionally there are some people, I guess, that are shy or don't really respond. 9 times out of 10, it's a positive interaction. We're laughing and say, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. So, the weather's crazy. Whatever that dialogue is, I feel like, wow, maybe I made a difference in that person's day today. And they, they'll approach it with a different mindset.
Well, Dr. Williams, thank you so much. We're getting ready to wind things down, but thank you so much for joining us and just sharing your incredible journey with us, and also to share your book with us. I know so many people will be able to glean from what's inside those pages and be able to take that information with them. Maybe there's someone within our community who has an ambition to be a doctor, or has an ambition to reinvent themselves, and they just don't know how, or have the ability to take that step of faith. And you are a great example of that being able to happen and grow. So I thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. And, I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to share, my life experience.
And Dr. Williams, do you have a website or a way that people could get in touch with you if they were interested in learning about your coaching?
Right now, the best way is my email. I'm revising the website. The email is Herman Williams Coaching, ironically, at Gmail. So Herman Williams Coaching at gmail.com. And what I've asked people to do is send me a request if you're interested in knowing when the book is being released, so that I'll respond to all those emails and let people know.
Fabulous.
Excellent. You might get some pre-sales, Dr. Williams.
Right?
Right.
That's awesome. Thank you so much once again, Dr. Williams. And guys, thank you so much for joining us this week on The Leap. And leap forward, leap forward, leap forward now.
Thank you.